Hey, hello guys. If you've ever wanted to connect Visual Studio Code to Databricks so that you can use Databricks-connect and you could execute notebooks from there, from Visual Studio Code to Databricks, first of all, you need a Databricks that's got Unity catalog, and also you need to install the Databricks application within Visual Studio. So let's try to do that together. If I had to start fresh, I'm going to create myself a virtual machine just so you can start fresh with a Windows 11, as if maybe you were doing it on your local laptop. Starting from scratch, no Python environment, no Visual Studio, nothing like that. We'll install Visual Studio Code. We'll install the Databricks Connect app within the Visual Studio Code, and then we will execute like an exploration notebook, which just tries to connect to Databricks cluster. Just imagine that you don't have to do this on a virtual machine, by the way. So if you are on a local machine, your laptop or your desktop, and you want to be able to install Visual Studio Code to connect to Databricks, then you can do that on your local machine. But for the purpose of me demonstrating how to do this, I have to start with a fresh slate so that we can show you all the ins and outs and the problems that you might come up against if you try to do this yourself. Because inevitably there's always something like, oh, I've got to get the right Python version. I have to have the right Databricks cluster runtime, compatible with the right Python version. There's just so much that that might go wrong that you might want to see. So the whole purpose of this is to show you how to use Visual Studio Code to connect to your Databricks cluster and start running some notebooks. So let's just, from the beginning, let's just start with, first of all, Visual Studio Code. So there's probably a few things we're going to have to install. It might be we have to get, we will have to do Python and install that into our local machine, because Visual Studio doesn't come necessarily with that, although Visual Studio can do a lot for you to do all that stuff. So let's see what we can do within Visual Studio. It should be there. It's going to complain something about the user installer or something, but yeah, don't worry about that. Just let it run. So what we got? Accept the agreement there. Just go next. Obviously, we want to add to path Visual Studio Code. We'll show you that in a second. All the environment variables. Right, that's installing. So while that's happening, just to show you our Databricks, we'll go and get our Databricks URL, which is going to Databricks here. Let's just grab this URL, go back into our machine, and let's paste this here. So obviously I'm on a new machine trying to log in. It's going to ask for MFA and all that, so which is no problem. Okay, and then let's go back to our Visual Studio, see how that's doing. All right, let's launch it. Now we're almost ready to connect our Visual Studio to Databricks. We just have to set up a few things. We have to install the Database connector app within Visual Studio. What we might do is also, before we even do that, let's set up Python. I know we need that. So go to extensions and let's look for Python, and we want Python 3.12 at least. Let's see what version this gives. Actually don't know. How do we know? Auto update. Maybe it will give us the latest. Let's go back to our extensions. So Databricks, and it's the first one that comes up, IDE support. So let's install that. Trust and install. So IDE means Integrated Development Environment, I believe, and Visual Studio Code is exactly one of those. Okay, it looks like it's installed, and you can see now we've got our Databricks icon on the left. And in order to create a connection between our Visual Studio and our Databricks, we have to create a project. So when you create a project, it's going to ask for your host, and we should, not that. We should have our host here. So take the host URL of your Databricks, paste it in there, and then now, if you've ever seen this or never seen this, you can actually, from your command line, your local machine, you can connect to multiple Databricks profiles, and they'll be listed in your Databricks config file, which you can see there, Databricks CFG. So if you have multiple Databricks and you want to sort of hit them with a command line, then you have to do a switch profile, and that might look a little bit like this. How you can, in your Python file notebook, you'd say os.environment. That would be one of your profiles within your config file. But that's, we don't need to worry about that right now. Let's use OAuth. So that'll connect our machine, this machine, to the Databricks as user to machine, I think. So let's go DBX Groove. You can call it whatever you want. So now you can see down the bottom it's logging in using OAuth 2. So more than likely it's going to open my browser and it's going to say authenticated, which is good. And then go back to Visual Studio, and then now it's asking to provide a path to a folder where you would want your new project to be. So that's going to be, if you go to your workspace, it's going to end up being, you'll see I've got like multiple of them because I've been trying this multiple times, just trying to get this video ready and seeing what the ins and outs are. So I've done it twice. So we'll do connect DBX from VS, well, you call it whatever you want, but you'll see that it'll come up as an extra. Oh crap, I think we've lost that dialog box now. And okay, well, that's there and there, and then here we go. So we'll call it connect via VS Code. I don't know, obviously you're not going to call it that, but just whatever you want to call it, right? Now it's going to create like a whole lot of files, YAML files, sample files, notebooks, sample files, and everything. This is going to ask you, what do you want to install? So it's like a bundle, Databricks bundle, and it's going to create stuff based on, do you do MLOps a lot, or do you do SQL, or are you using Python? So, I mean, we work a lot with Python. That's our sort of default. So I'm just going to type, as you type default Python, then that comes up. Just push enter, and then it's just a name for the project, which will be stored in, eventually it's going to come up here in the Explorer. So that could be called whatever you want. My Databricks Proj 1, or whatever you're calling it. Include a stub sample notebook. So yes, let's have one of those. Include a Delta Live table pipeline. Why not? Include a stub for Python package, and just say yes. And then there it is. And then it says uniquely to close. We've done that. And now this pops up again. It says, okay, what do you want to connect to? So now this, the very project I've just made, let's connect back to that, and then it'll sort of reopen Visual Studio, and then you can see now my Databricks project 1, and this can be stored into your Git repository, of course. And I'm not too familiar with Databricks asset bundles, but I think you can use this to deploy to any other environment, the same thing. So ultimately, that's not what I want to show you here today, but what I want to show you is now we want to connect to our Databricks compute. So if you click back on the Databricks icon here, and we just wait for that workspace to load. Right, that's loaded up now, and you can see that we can now select a cluster. So it's going to say which cluster do you want to connect to. I'm going to go with cluster 16, which has got the 16.2 runtime. Scala 2.12. I'm going to click on that one. So those are my clusters inside of my Databricks, as you can see here. So now it's connected to the cluster. We could start the cluster, which is pretty cool. Let's start that now while we're talking and doing other stuff. And then now we have to activate a Python environment here. All right, so we're going to create a Venv, a virtual environment. It wants to use 3.12. So let's see. And you can see that there's a red thing down here saying, you know, can't connect at the moment. So let's click on this. Started. So I just don't think it knows of any environment here. So let's refresh this. Configuration is still trying to. It's just not happy, is it? Right. What we'll do, we're going to go to one of my favorites. Oh. So chocolately. So this is good if you're a developer and you just want to get stuff installed. Let's just run our PowerShell here. Run as administrator. And then we're going to, let's just make sure our unrestricted, which is fine. Okay, so then we want to run this. It should install Choco for us. It's in there. Okay, so now we want to install Python. So we're going to Choco install Python version 3.13.1 at the time of recording. I believe this is the latest. So we're installing that on our machine for the entire machine, right? It says it installed it, then it says it didn't install it. Confused. Type Python and then the Windows Store opens. 3.13. Let's just get rid of that for a second. If we go to, what's it going to do? I don't know. I think we had a problem because ultimately it should have. Oh, it is there. Just install this as well. See if we get any conflicts. Should work. I wonder if this has got now an extra one. Let's have a look. Nope. Okay, we're all good there. Get rid of that. Let's start up a Visual Studio again. Cluster's still running, which is good. Let's see if we can connect. Go to our Databricks icon. Let's activate this. So we clicked on that. And now it's bringing up this Venv. It's a virtual environment. Let's click on that. Let's go to our, you see it did have Python on there for some reason. The requirements dev.text comes from the actual, from here. So let's just go okay. As you can see it there. Now it's creating a Venv over there. As you can see, it just popped it in. And you can see down here, it's creating a virtual environment. So that might take a little while. Oh, error while creating virtual environment. What the problem is. Oh, let's try our other environments. Although it does say, let's just see if we. Oh, there you go. Now, so we've got our virtual environments. We are on 3. Well, we're higher than 3.12, which is fine. Let's click on our install Databricks-connect. So that's going to run a command line, which I believe will be. Let's have a look if we can find it. For interactive debugging and auto completion, you need Databricks-connect. Would you like to install it in the virtual environment? Okay. Install. So there, pip install Databricks-connect 16.2. Oh no, that doesn't look good. Let's see if we can get help from Copilot. I installed 16.1.1 version, but got this error. Right. Oh, let's just click a few things. Let's just click a few things on here. This is like Visual Studio. What is this? Build Tools 2022. Whatever. All right, install. Required 28 gigs. Wow, it's huge. Well, I'm not sure this is the reason, but we'll see. The trick, for some reason, we need to install. If you're doing it the way that I've done it, I think there's other ways to do it, to be fair. If you've done the way I've done it, where you've just used all these same steps, then you probably need to install the Visual Studio build tools. Make sure that this gets installed, because that seemed to be the problem. So you can see now that I've now got Databricks-connect enabled. I've got a virtual environment running. I've installed Python onto that virtual environment, or using Python, I created that environment. And then I set up the Databricks built-in tools for auto completion, right? So if we click on this now, so we're going to set up Databricks built-ins for auto completion. We just click on continue. And I use Databricks-connect 16.1.1, by the way, and not 16.2.0, because there wasn't no such thing, I don't believe. Now, I think we're good to go. Let's just see, my cluster is still hot. Back on this, and what I want to show you is when we loaded this thing initially, we installed a sample notebook, right? From so it's going to go from the notebook here, from this one, import main. Inside of main, it's got the get Spark session. So what it's going to do is create the Spark session locally here using the Databricks session, and then it's going to get the read the table samples taxi trips. Now, I believe that is inside samples. Oh, it's taking some time. NYC taxis and then trips, so it'll be in there. And we expect to see some sample data. So we're going to see a few rows, like, wait for this to load. Okay, a few of these. So let's just run this. Let's see what we get. Okay, so back to our notebook. We may have to install some other stuff, but let's see what we get. Okay. So I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, because there's obviously other things you can do, like installing PySpark and kernels and such. But let's just see if this works out the box. So I'm going to push play here, and it's asking which environment we want to run it on. We're going to run it on the virtual environment that we've already got installed. Connecting to the kernel. Let's see. Do you want to allow? Okay, what's this? Windows firewalls block some functions. Just click allow for now. All right, so it's going to want to install some kernels. Let's install that. Down the bottom, we can see it's installing an IPY kernel. Right, looks like the kernel has installed. Let's run this. Let's see if we get any luck. Look, it's running that. Let's see if we can check it out on the Spark. Maybe we'll be able to see something calling it. It's probably this one. That's the job that's calling from Visual Studio. Oh, we've got a problem. Okay, Spark is not defined. Let's try it on this one because I did. I had this working. So imports this. We're going to create our own Spark quickly. So let's just paste that in there. And we want to create a Spark session, so we'll do something like this. So that Spark there is going to go into there. So then we're just doing it directly. But that may or may not work. Okay, that's done. He's still trying to connect to that virtual environment though. Ah, done. Okay, cool. We've done it. We have achieved what we set out to do, which is to return back some data inside of Visual Studio Code, which is executing on the Databricks cluster over here. So you know, we can see that it's called this cluster, and it's got the New York taxi data back. So there we go. We did the job. Looks like we called it there with the Spark Connect session ID, and we got some information back. So we were successfully able to connect to Databricks, and you can see that we're still connected. Happy days. And there you go. So that's how you can connect your Visual Studio Code to your Databricks and start coding inside here, and then calling your cluster to get some data back from your catalog. And in your catalog, you can have obviously all the different things you've got, all your different databases and such. They call these databases, and sometimes they call them schemas. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that.